ourselves, and being able to understand the governorship is actually the stewardship, and the stewardship is to understand how that information is not just being received, but how it's also being disseminated amongst our community. So it's one thing to just receive information, right? But you have to be the light to the nations with the information that you receive. So this is that understanding that the Most High has given us, and He gives it to us through His people, through His servants, those that are called by His name. So that is the mandate that we have. So now in this season, as we are beginning to be more sensitive to His word, because things are changing. And now those things that are changing is changing in accordance to what the word has stated. So now, in terms of peace and safety is different amongst them, because when they say peace and safety, that's sudden destruction. Peace and safety amongst us is when we're literally gathered to our people and we're gathering to ourselves to understand the matter of how we're able to then provide for knowledge and understanding. Because without knowledge and understanding, we're destroyed. That's Hosea 4:6. So I'm going to go ahead and say a quick prayer right before we're getting ready to go. Father Yah, we come to you in your awesome and mighty name, Yahushua HaMashiach. Father, we come here asking that you forgive us of our sins, thought, word, deed. Father, anything that's not of you, anything that's a blemish, anything, Father, that's within our hearts, any type of unforgiveness, Father, anything, Father, because we want to expose our hearts to make it clean so that the enemy has no chance to be the accuser of the brethren, especially in this day and age where the accuser could lead to deportations, could lead to arrests, detainments, and even disappearances. Father, we are aware of this time that you are waking us up as a people, and you're literally waking the nations up in this valley of decision to decide to either stay in darkness or to decide to walk in light and righteousness. Father, thank you for what you have imparted on our Sister Shar, so that our people get fed with knowledge and understanding, and so they can move in power that you have provided. And that they carry this information with their voice to decree and declare amongst our family, our friends, our loved ones. Because you have not given us a spirit of fear, but you've given us a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. This is what allows us to have a sound mind in a time where you have a lot of political wheeling and dealing and double talks in this time of confusion. We know, Father, that you are Elohim and that you are with his people, with your people in this time of your visitation. Continue, Father, to bring us peace and understanding. This we ask in your awesome and mighty name, Yahushua HaMashiach. Hallelujah.
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 All right, family. Well, it's that time.
Hallelujah.
It's that time. And we're going to jump in. And before we jump in, I do want to let y'all know that when we took on this project a couple of weeks ago, Sister Shar was the last one who knew what was going on. I don't watch the news. I'm not in social media. And I got the call that something's going on. Our people have questions. Will you look into this?
I need a little bit more sweetness, Maya. Nah, it's
And if you can help us out, because we're recording this for those who couldn't join us live today, please keep yourself muted for the quality of the recording. So, Sister Shar didn't know what was going on, y'all. I literally went back into law school mode to prepare this for you today. And I pray that this brings some clarity to what may have seemed confusing in the news. So let's jump in. Legal disclaimer, this is a training. This is legal education and information only. I'm not giving you legal advice. I don't know the particulars of your situation. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not lawyering right now. I'm educating, I'm training, I'm equipping you with information. And also, there's another disclaimer here that some of the implications of how I'm seeing this and things that I'm expecting to come, it might make you feel afraid, but that is not the intention of this presentation. The Most High has not given us a spirit of fear. He has empowered us with love for one another. He has given us power through unity, and He has given us soundness of mind because we're rooted in the truth of His word and His promise. So, even when you read the book of Revelation, for example, it sounds scary, but it's actually a book of hope because it tells you we will overcome, we will endure, and our King will be seated in righteousness. So, keep that in mind if you feel afraid, because this is not about fear. This is about knowing what's going on, because we are no longer living under the curse of being destroyed for not knowing. Ignorance is a form of judgment. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we wrap up some remarks at the end of this presentation. Ask for wisdom and be guided in understanding, in courage, in boldness, and in love. So I welcome you here to the Law for Love Community Justice Center. Law for Love, we help people fight fair and to protect generational wealth by promoting, instructing, and administering justice through alternative dispute resolution and creative legal solutions. We are a nonpartisan, non religious organization, and how we serve the community, how we empower people is keeping our people out of the court system of this land. We've been taught that that is where you go first, but hopefully the presentation here will help underscore why Law for Love entered into the world of full-time alternative dispute resolution because of the brokenness of the court system. And this is me. I found Law for Love, and I am a certified arbitrator and professional mediator committed to protecting people, working people, from the cost, the combat, and confusion of the traditional court system. And I have a proven track record for being conscientious, creative, and compassionate. It is what I do, and it is why the organization is Law for Love. It is law and compassion. And then I want to make some special acknowledgments. First, to our elders. After our first town hall and in response to our first town hall, I was moved so deeply with adoration towards each and every one of you for being attentive to what is going on because of what you've already lived through, and being a voice crying out in the wilderness to wake up the younger generation. I thank you and I bless you and I appreciate you. I want to thank and express my deepest gratitude to all of the watchmen in our community. You know who you are, the ones who are out here sounding the alarm, the ones who are out here sharing and updating the community. I bless you and I appreciate you for your work that brought this issue to my attention. And thank you to each and every one of you who are Law for Love supporters, who have supported me while I sat down to go back to law school to give you reliable information, to clarify things for you so that you don't feel confused or overwhelmed. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who support the work that we do in the community. So here's our roadmap to keep me on task and for you to understand. We're going to first talk about the trial court, and I'm doing it in that order very specifically because here in this presentation, I don't want to just tell you what I think. I want you to know what's happening so that you can own the knowledge. And as things continue to unfold, you can see patterns for yourself. We're going to talk about the battleground over procedure. A lot of people's questions are, what's the law? How has the law changed? But you're going to see in just a few moments that everything right now has nothing to do with the law and everything to do with procedure. Please mute yourselves. We're also going to talk about the Supreme Court's alignment with what the executive branch has unleashed with the new administration. And we'll talk about the future ahead, some practical tips. We'll address questions that I have received in email and open it up for discussion. I'm going to do my best not to take too long, but it does take me a little while to read. So thank you in advance for your patience and your understanding as I try to get through this information with you. Now, those of you who joined us for the first town hall, I just want to quickly refresh and summarize that in that town hall, we talked about the balance of power in the federal government, the checks and balances between the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And during that town hall, I expressed my concerns about how much this is changing under the current administration. In the email that comes out with the replay from today, if you did not have the benefit of that training, I will include that replay if you don't already have it. And today's presentation is going into the other aspect of constitutional government, which is the balance of power. So we're going to call this balance of power part 2, federalism. The people under the constitutional government are represented by the state, and the state's power is the final check on the federal government. So I want you to keep this in mind as we're going through this information. You got the 3 branches of the federal government, but the other check on the federal government is the people. All right, what am I doing? Okay, so the current media discussion is about 3 main cases. It's hard to even say how many total number of plaintiffs are involved because in response to executive orders that were being, thrown out there with warp speed, all kind of people started filing lawsuits. So we really don't know the total number of plaintiffs that are involved. But for the purpose of this analysis, the main case that I'm walking you through is called New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support et al. Et al. Means the other named plaintiffs versus Trump et al. Other named defendants. All of these government agencies, right, who are involved in enforcing Trump's executive order concerning birthright citizenship. I will sprinkle in some highlights from other cases and news so that you can see the bigger picture. So the New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support case was filed January 20th. As soon as Trump filed his executive order, that same day, this case was filed. And this case was filed to deal with Executive Order 4160, the protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. So I'm pretty sure everyone here has already heard that, but just to kind of like lay out what this lawsuit is about, it's about the 14th Amendment, and it's about this mandate that Trump is saying, hey, as of February 19th, 2025, the federal government is not issuing any citizenship paperwork, such as social security numbers, such as passports, and the federal government is mandated not to honor any documents that come from states recognizing citizenship as of February 19, 2025. So if a state issues a birth certificate, the federal government is not to honor a citizenship status of any person born after February 19, 2025. So this lawsuit was initiated and asking the court, will you remind the president what the law is? Like it literally reads this way. Please, number one, remind the president what the law is. And number two, stop the president from creating this chaos. So the trial courts in all of these suits that were filed all over the place, but specifically here in the Indonesian community support case, they're saying, hey, these unborn children have a right to citizenship when they are born here. And again, 14th Amendment and the U.S. Code of Section 1401, which is also known as the Immigration and Naturalization Act. This is what's under attack. This is the law. How does he get to change the law? And to emphasize what I was saying during the last town hall, I just highlighted a piece of the complaint that was filed here. The Constitution and Congress, not President Trump, dictate who is entitled to full membership in American society. This was such like this statement jumped off the page at me from a constitutional government analysis because duh, like why is Trump writing law now? Remember, I was concerned that he was overruling the Supreme Court, and now he's also doing the job of Congress and he's writing new law through an executive order. This is a huge, huge, huge red flag. And that's why they filed these people were burning the midnight oil on that day to file this lawsuit the same day that executive order hit. So by the time we get to the end of the presentation, you're probably going to conclude, as I have, that the Trump administration actually calculated this. This is what the administration wanted. And you'll probably come to similar conclusions as I have why the government calculated such a dramatic, why the government calculated such an obvious constitutional foul to get an immediate response. Who are the parties? This is the big, big question that's happening in the media. Who are the parties? Now, according to Trump, the executive order is limiting, rewriting the 14th Amendment and the Section 1401 to also exclude children who are born to mothers who are here illegally and their father is not a U.S. citizen, or she might be here lawfully, like as a visitor or as an international student. But if that child's father is not a citizen or that child's father is not a green card holder, then that child is not included in the citizenship. He rewrote the law in this executive order which was very, very intentional. Now, the reason why it was so upsetting and why the Indonesian community support case was filed so quickly is because this area of the law it's been settled. It's been 125 years since this has been tested by the Supreme Court. And that's again under the 14th Amendment, under 8 USC section 1401, and under Supreme Court case from 1898, y'all. Like, this is the last time this was even like, why are we dealing with this? This has been settled since 1898. United States versus Wong Kim Ark. And it was in United States versus Wong Kim Ark that the court said, okay, the 14th Amendment applies to everyone except. These are the only two groups that do not get birthright citizenship since what was the year? 1898. This is number one, children of foreign friends. So if a person is here in the United States and they are dignitary, right? So let's say, I don't know, the embassy of pick a country, Zimbabwe. They're here in a consular office in the United States, and the ambassador's wife has her baby in DC. Well, that baby is still a citizen of Zimbabwe because that foreign friend is not surrendering their home citizenship to have their child here. They are here as a diplomat. So diplomats' children do not get birthright citizenship. The second category that was determined under Wong Kim Ark was that children of occupying enemies. And I want y'all to keep this in mind. Occupying enemies do not get birthright citizenship. These are the only two exceptions to citizenship, birthright citizenship, under this 127-year precedent. If you are an occupying enemy and your child is born under a hostile occupation of the United States, that child is not a citizen of the United States. So this has been settled, y'all. And when I began to read what has been happening, I'm like, wait a minute. The court never even got to answer the question whether or not what Trump did was even legal. It's so obvious on the face to anyone who knows constitutional law. Look, the law and government that you learned in the 8th grade in middle school, you can read this executive order and say, hey, wait, the president is creating new law. That's illegal, right? But I also want you to ask yourself this question. How does this empower the court or the administration? That the court never answered the question. Right now, all of the fight is over procedure, y'all. How is this a benefit? How is this a strategy for the administration? So on February the 10th, 2025, the court in the Indonesian community support case issued what's called a preliminary injunctive order. And the order was very, very well written. The order followed the law, and the court took the position that it had to stop the government under principles of equity. Equity is a word that it comes from the English civil system of justice. My favorite way of describing equity is fairness. Like, if the law doesn't tell the judge exactly what the judge has the power to do, the judge still has a right to do what's fair. And in the use of its fairness powers, the court decided to stop the administration on behalf of unborn children because the government was overreaching. And this kind of power, fairness power, under the three-branch system is intended for keeping a check on the executive, keeping a check on the legislative, like all of the different pieces of the government. This is why fairness exists in the judiciary, so that a judge can say, hold on, wait a minute, something's off, something's not fair. And the court decided to protect unborn children with the preliminary injunctive order, because otherwise, if the court did not take action on February the 10th, then only less than a week later, any child born to a mom who was here illegally and the father wasn't a US citizen, or to a woman who was here lawfully but temporarily as a visitor or as a student, just as two examples, and the father isn't a citizen or a green card holder, those children would be born stateless if they were born here on US soil. The court reasoned that that kind of outcome would be so unfair, especially since the birthright citizenship issue has been established for more than 125 years. The court took action and limited its court order to its jurisdiction. Anyone who were potentially affected by this particular court and the territorial jurisdiction of this court. So the other thing that started sending off alarms for me as I was reading this case was that the court made special note that the government's arguments were really weak. I mean, it was almost like they weren't trying to win their argument. They weren't trying to get to the question of legality. They weren't really fighting, is what the court was signaling in its preliminary injunctive order. Now, let's jump to another case real quick. This is on January 13th, 3 days after the Indonesian community case. And this is New Jersey versus Trump. Now, this particular case also includes, this case includes people who are concerned about their unborn children and states who are concerned about the chaos that would be created in their hospitals and with how they issue birth certificates. So 18 different states got involved because it's like, wait, hold up. No, court, please stop the government on a temporary basis, because the mess that's going to be created is going to be something that we're not going to be able to fix this if the court allows this. So on February the 13th, in the New Jersey v. Trump case, the judge issued the universal order that I believe was what the administration was fishing for all along. I believe that this was the order that they wanted so that they could hurry up, and you'll see in just a second, they could hurry up and take this case higher. Because they didn't even fight. They didn't even make good arguments when it came to the pregnant women case, the unborn children case. But this case involving the states drew heat. And that is why my question here is, were the states the intended litigation target all along? Could this be why the government didn't bother to make arguments in the unborn children case of the Indonesian citizenship? Now, the next thing that happens in the time frame is on February the 18th. So 5 days after that universal injunction, then there's like, it starts hitting the news that the Department of Homeland Security has a new directive, and I'm saying that with air quotes, y'all, a new directive. Hey, anyone who has already been deported on paper but they're still here for humanitarian reasons, lock them back up, put them back in detention. This was February the 18th. And then in March, on the 23rd of March, here's another case that's very interesting in terms of the timeline and what we're seeing unfold. DVD versus the Department of Homeland Security. Here is where the non-citizen class action in response to the Department of Homeland Security directive, like, hey, we're going to lock you back up if you're here for humanitarian relief, but you've already been deported. This class action lawsuit gets filed. And I will tell you, in reading the complaint, the humanitarian basis for why many of these plaintiffs were coming together as a class action, they were very, very compelling. There was one lady in there who feared going back to her country because her ex-husband, anytime she left, he found her and beat her up. There was a statement in the complaint that he threw her out of a second-story window. It injured this lady bad. Like anywhere she went, he found her to hurt her. And he was a convict. He was convicted for murder, I believe. Who, when he got out of jail, he came and just tormenting and hunting this lady down. And she's like, I can't go back home without fear of my life. Another man feared being sent back to Mexico, where he was sexually assaulted in Mexico. I mean, like these kind of accounts of, hey, when I was back in that country, this is what happened to me. These were the type of stories that, yes, these people had been deported on paper, but the government did not ship them back home or send them anywhere else as a form of humanitarian relief. So that's the DVD case. The DVD case is humanitarian relief for deported non-citizens. They've already been deported. They just haven't been sent, but they've been deported on paper. They've been ordered deported. Now, on May 23rd, in the Indonesian Community Services case, Trump files his 72-page appeal to the Supreme Court because they had what they needed from the New Jersey case to challenge nationwide universal injunctions. And I want to take this moment to make you aware that the one thing that stopped universal mandate of vaccines, the vaccine mandate under the Biden administration, guess how that was stopped? Guess how that was not made a mandate nationwide? It was the use of preliminary injunctive orders. It was nationwide or universal protective orders, just like the one that Trump sent on a challenge on May 23rd. That's what stopped vaccine mandates. And now Trump is attacking this. Now, on June 23rd, in the DVD case, this is the humanitarian relief for deported persons, the Supreme Court permits the Trump administration to start sending people to third countries. And this court order is so bizarre because they don't explain their rationale. They just tell the lower court that issued a temporary injunction to stop the runaway administration. They say, yeah, the administration doesn't have to do what the lower court said. They can now ship deported people to third countries. That happened on June 23rd. And later that week, on June 27th, was when the Supreme Court came back telling the lower courts in the birthright citizenship litigation, okay, y'all can't just keep doing these nationwide universal injunctions anymore. We're going to tighten this up. These need to be more narrow. This is not what the law anticipated the court's power should be in response to the executive. And I'll even add here, as a matter of constitutional analysis, part of how the three-branch system is supposed to work, when the Congress began seeing all of this litigation going on around this question of who should be afforded citizenship. Congress should have been getting involved. Congress should have been writing bills. Congress should have been stating whether or not the Trump's additional language was now the law of the land or not. That should not be something left for the court to define. That was a signal to Congress to do something. I just want to kind of put that here, right here, for Constitutional Law 101, Constitutional Government 101. And then on July 3rd, in the DVD case, the humanitarian relief for deported people, the Supreme Court came back and flexed so hard. Oh my gosh, when I read this order, the lower court that was telling the Trump administration, hey, you can't just ship people all over the place without certain procedures and safeguards in place. This court told the Trump administration, we want to know, who are you shipping to Libya? Trump administration violated the court order. Don't send the people until further notice of this court. Trump administration did what they want to do. When the court attempted to hold the administration accountable for violating its court order, the Supreme Court came back and slapped their hands and said, you cannot stop the president from sending deported people to a third country. So this was very, very chilling on the lower court's power to check the Trump administration. And then the very next day, the one big, beautiful bill is passed. And just in case you didn't realize, all three branches of the federal government at the highest level are on code with the immigration policy. This is why the Supreme Court is slapping the hand of the lower courts. This is why the Supreme Court is signaling to the lawyers and the litigants, look, y'all not just going to keep getting these injunctions to stop the president. We're going to make you play ball in a more narrow and a more difficult playing field. The court is on code. Congress is on code. And the president has what he needs, which is his control of a federal agency to accomplish his immigration policy. So if you look at it simply from a constitutional analysis, the Department of Homeland Security is the manpower needed to police and put people up out this country. The big, beautiful bill paid for it. And the court's response to all of this litigation is giving the executive branch authority to carry out the policy. They are all on the same page. The power of the federal government has been consolidated with the president on the issue of immigration. You can fight all you want to, in other words. So now the question is whether or not the states are going to bend the knee. And I want to emphasize this as what the real story is behind all of this. Because the federal government, they are all together. The states are the last obstacle to total power in the executive branch of the government right now. So why did Trump pick a fight over procedure? Again, as I was reading the case, I'm like, wait a minute. There's a lot of stuff that the administration didn't do that you ordinarily would do if this was really about, that you're doing the right thing. No, Trump's administration and their lawyers, their army of lawyers, they picked a fight that was calculated to go straight to the Supreme Court. President Trump is a professional litigator, family. He knew what he needed to do. Number one, not only to get to the Supreme Court, who was already in his hand, but to begin wearing down his opposition financially. I'm family. I want you to consider every single sheet of paper in all of these different court cases represent $10,000 or more in costs. Each sheet of paper. The Supreme Court's decision in Trump v. Casa on the question of again, it's not about birthright citizenship. They still haven't answered that question. The question is over, can the court stop the government from carrying out the president's policy? That court order was more than 100 pages, $1 million worth of cost on one court order, on a single court order. I want you to see the economic warfare in all of this. So that's this is where I'm beginning to see all of this coming down to. And here's what's supporting my argument. Exhibit number 1, look at this. The day before the Supreme Court the Supreme Court decision, that 100-page decision, you start seeing attorneys coming out the case on June 26th. So again, when I talk about law for love and alternative dispute resolution, this is the number one reason why most people want to go into court and fight. Let me tell you something. If you don't have more than $3 million in assets, you cannot fight in this system. This system requires pay to play. So when I saw attorneys starting to withdraw, I say, okay, look, state of Tennessee attorney coming out. God, look, you got to come back and regroup. You got to come out. They didn't expect this thing to go to the Supreme Court like that. They were filing on behalf of pregnant women. The case was open and shut in the Indonesian case. But all of the cases got put together inside of at the appeals level. All of these cases got put together with the case involving New Jersey and the other 17 states that drew that universal order. This was the outcome Trump calculated. And now these attorneys, that the litigants, the parties, these nonprofit organizations that's out here fighting for the people, they got to recalculate their budget. Anytime you see an attorney withdrawing, believe you me, 9 times out of 10, it's related to money, because it's expensive to be in court litigating like this, especially at an appeals level. You got to have some deep pockets to fight. Exhibit number 2, there's a curious pattern against consolidated power here. Now, the use of universal injunctive orders, this didn't start happening like since 1963. There's only been like 127 times courts have done this to slow down a president. 127 times since 1963. But most of them have happened since the 2000s, early 2000s. This didn't really start getting serious until George W. Bush, Obama. He got a few more, and then Biden drew more than Obama. But out of all of them, out of Bush, Obama, and Biden, Trump in his first administration got most of these injunctions put on him. Now, is some of this, from court activism? Sure. People hate Trump. He's a very polarizing person. But from a purely legal analysis, again, I'm not political. Political parties is not what motivates me. But from a purely legal analysis, something had to be done with his aggressive his aggressive disrespect of the three-branch system. So that's exhibit number 2, just the sharp increase of the court's necessity in stopping the government through the use of these injunctive orders. Exhibit number 3, I'm looking at the pattern of the aggressive executive order themes. So most of the ones that Trump has pulled from the court's response have been immigration related. You had a couple here that were about environment and energy, and then you have Medicaid healthcare policies. And the pattern is really, really clear. He is going to accomplish what he intends for immigration, whether or not the Constitution is involved. And that is exhibit number 3, the pattern of policies that are aggressively pursued this way. Exhibit number 4, I want to bring your attention to the provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill. It put a lot of money behind this. Immigration enforcement, the border wall, detention capacity, and expanding ICE. And exhibit number 5 is the new work mandate under Medicaid. Now, this has already been done before. This is nothing new. In fact, I want to say sometime around 2016, 2017, they did the work mandate on food stamps, right? Like if you're a able-bodied working adult aged 18 to 64, you need to get a job. If you want to qualify for public benefits, you need to get a job. And so the question that I present from exhibit number 5, is this the target workforce for the next generation of law enforcement? You just pumped billions of dollars into expanding ICE enforcement. Are these the people that you're looking to hire? Your Medicaid recipients. So I want to respond to a few questions that were emailed. Thank you to each and every one of you who responded to my email. In the worst case scenario, how do our people protect our families if or when it happens to us? What I had to realize as I was preparing for y'all is that this isn't my first rodeo with immigration policy under Trump and the legal community's response. When I was with Atlanta Legal Aid led in the response of how DACA recipients were being targeted and deported. And so what our team of immigration professionals and other immigration leaders throughout the state of Georgia and even nationwide, what we all agreed was that this really boiled down to having a solid estate plan. Believe it or not, having a solid estate plan. Because when you're dealing with a runaway government that has police power behind it, there's very little you can do to stop them physically taking your body, but there's a lot you can do in preparing that someone in your family or someone in the community is entrusted and empowered with legal authority to act on your behalf when it comes to financial matters, making sure that the mortgage is paid so your family doesn't get your house doesn't get foreclosed. A lot of families have that kind of situation where only one of the husband or wife's name is on the house. Well, if the person whose name is on the house ends up being detained and can't get access to banking or making sure that bills are getting paid, now the family is at risk of being foreclosed if the other spouse can't come up with the money or figure out how to access the funds to keep the house payments going. So this is just one small example of why a very, very a very good estate plan, and even thinking about, hey, if something happens to me, or if something happens to both of the parents and our kids, we get separated from our children, who do we want to empower to take care of our children and have access to carrying any kind of funds that we have available for caring for our children? These are documents that you can prepare in advance. These are legal authority you can give in advance. So that guidance that we prepared back in the DACA days of Trump's first administration, I am providing you access to that as well, so that you can see these practical guidelines that we use to help and support many immigrant families in these worst case scenarios that you're asking about. Another question here, how would we be able to locate family? The sad news that I have for you right now, given what I'm seeing, even with the administration refusing to obey federal court orders to tell them, who are you shipping? Like the administration did not respond. The administration is disrespecting court orders. And with the use of certain type of proceedings, called summary proceedings, those types of things that are happening inside of the Department of Homeland Security and not inside of the courts, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know how you would find a loved one who is being taken in a very militaristic style of detention, which is really what we're seeing unfold in the deportation cases. And I'm sorry, but there's no answer for this one right now. Another question is, do we need to have passports prepared? Yes, 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 and yes. And I'll drop a beat to it. And yes, and yes, yes, and yes, and yes. Please, please, please. If you have been foot dragging and delaying on getting your passport, please stop. Please make a sacrifice somewhere else and just go ahead and get this stuff done. Please. And I would even take it a step further. Rather than depending on your driver's license as your proof of ID, travel with your passport. Have several copies of your passport in safe places. But if you don't already have this, please, because that is documentation of your citizenship. And I'll talk about it in just a minute, like what I expect is going to continue to unfold. Like after they deal with the true quote unquote illegal aliens, what I believe they're going to do with these, the weakened form of government that's going to be left. Does this affect citizens with green cards? From a birthright citizenship standpoint, no. Right now, as the state of the law is, under the 14th Amendment, under the Immigration and Naturalization Act, under Supreme Court precedent, if you have a child and you have a green card and that child is born here, your child is a citizen. Again, I do believe the fight was picked not to deprive citizenship from the children. I believe the fight was picked to declare war on state power and to bankrupt states of their litigation budget, because I do see a weakening of constitutional protection. That is the pattern that I'm seeing, a weakening of constitutional protection of individual rights. Would they deport Black Americans? Nothing is off the table. I do believe that with respect to us, I would see us as potentially the next round of people who could be swept up with the new police state, the new ICE police state that they are building up, the stormtroopers, so to say. I believe that once the actual immigrants and people who have been here under the protection of immigration courts, and once they've removed these individuals, then it would not be far-fetched to expect that potentially Black Americans, citizens even, may be targeted because I'm seeing a runaway police state. That's what I'm seeing. So I think this is within the realm of possibility. Just not as imminent, but within the realm of possibility. If being pulled over, would a birth certificate or a passport be sufficient to get them to release us? Again, I do believe that traveling with your passport is going to be advisable and with some favor and with the grace of the Most High, you may be dealing with an officer who uses their good sense and humanity not to just make themselves a bully. But when you're looking at a pattern of lawlessness that is emboldened with a police force, your paper is not going to be what saves you. As a practical matter, do you want to have it? Yes. I would prefer to recommend you travel with a passport rather than travel with a birth certificate. But if a birth certificate is all you have, again, whatever you're traveling with, have copies of it, multiple copies of it. But just because the law enforcement is saying, show me your papers, doesn't necessarily mean those papers will be respected if the actual policy of the government is to lock you up anyway. And I'm saying that here as I'm looking at the DVD case and what the complaint was saying in the DVD case. And again, those are the people who've already been deported, but they're still here for humanitarian reasons. In that case, the attorneys for the non-citizens were saying, hey, Department of Homeland Security are notorious for having policies that are not written down. So remember when I showed you that February 18th news headline, this was in the news like word on the streets. This wasn't a written policy. Like, wouldn't it have been easy for Trump to just issue it as an executive order like he does with everything else to put the world on notice what he's doing? But they didn't do it that way. They did it under the Department of Homeland Security as a quote unquote directive. They don't have written policies. So at any given time, they can have a written policy. We don't care if they look like they African descent, lock them up. The same way that they did with the February 18th. So I don't want to give any false sense of hope here. I'm not saying this to make you afraid. I think as a practical matter right now, in the foreseeable, like right now, while they're still focusing on deporting immigrants, recent immigrants, voluntary immigrants, should I say? I don't think those of us who are descendants of involuntary immigrants, we have anything to worry about right now. But given DHS's pattern of issuing policies that are not written, at any given time, they can have a policy that say, all right, if they look African, I don't care what they tell you. I don't care if they have a birth certificate. Lock them up. That is possible. And again, I don't say that to make anyone afraid. Please, please, please do not interpret this as fear mongering. I'm answering based on what I'm seeing as a huge departure from conventional constitutional law and constitutional government. When does this law take effect? Again, the Birthright Citizenship Executive Order was set to impact children born after February 16th of this year. How the Supreme Court wrote their order and sent it back to the lower court. The lower court has stood its ground and said, hey, Trump, you can't do this against these kids. So the lower court in the Indonesian community support case has still forbidden the government from enforcing their policy of not issuing social security numbers and not issuing passports to these children that are born after February 16th of this year. So that one is still kind of like, hey, government, you can't do this. But with respect to all of these other moving pieces, I don't have any dates for you other than the fact that Most of this stuff is directed towards people who have already been deported, people who are already non-citizens. The unborn seem to be mostly safe right now, and that executive order is not taking effect. But I believe that that's because that wasn't what this fight was about. This was picking a fight on the states. What does this law? Oh, okay, we just answered that. Sorry. If being picked up, who can we contact? Our attorney, etc. I'm recommending to each and every one of us to make sure that we have all potential emergency contacts, family member, people who you can call, attorneys, advisors, um, trusted folk, that all of your contact information is somewhere where somebody can get to it. I am including a list of all of the litigation attorneys and these advocacy groups that are already in the fight, how you can get in touch with them. And I'll show you just how to get to that in a second. But all of your emergency contacts need to be written down somewhere anyway. We're in a generation where a lot of us don't even remember phone numbers anymore. Like we used to write phone numbers down. We used to have like the little paper phone books and stuff, but now everybody's number is in your phone. Like if you were in a situation right now separated from your phone, do you know the number of your top 5 contacts? Are you able to call them from memory? Like we need to put our contact information and contact details somewhere where other people can get to it. And you can call any of these advocacy groups that are already in the fight because they're the ones who are most up to speed on the state of the law and what's happening in actual facilities and detention. Like they already kind of have the inroads on navigating you and your family through that type of situation. How will this decision affect our seniors? And what legally can be done to help them if it takes, if taken into custody? The most immediate concern for seniors potentially might be in the area of the Medicaid reform. So that's something that I didn't get the opportunity to look closely into, but potentially with the healthcare reform, seniors might want to pay attention to changes in their Medicaid and or Medicare if they're under the age of 64, based on the able-bodied adult definition of the work requirements. What can be done? Right now, I can't tell you that, if they're taken into custody again, having access to their plan, right? Their estate plan. Who are their contacts? Where is their bank account? How do you make sure that the mortgage is paid, that the house doesn't go into foreclosure? How do you keep their cell phone bill paid? Stuff like that. Those things are the most immediate practical steps that we all need to be thinking about, making sure that our people know how to get into our stuff and to help us manage our stuff if we are in a situation where we can't. How will this affect those who have student loans? I'm not seeing this group of people as a part of what's going on right now. That doesn't mean that they're not. There's so many things that are not obvious. I think we all need to just continue to be prayerful, continue to pray for wisdom and insight and understanding exactly what's going on and how we need to move at any given time. But I'm not seeing this group of people being targeted under birthright citizenship right now. I don't see the connection right now. How will this affect those who have jobs and the retired? Again, I'm not seeing these particular folk as targets. If anything, I believe that many people who are being laid off will probably start looking at opportunities, expanding opportunities in Homeland Security and ICE for trying to get a job, right? Trying to pay the bills. So I see it more as potentially impacting people who are laid off. But retired, I'm not seeing a direct and immediate risk from how I'm reading these cases. And here's where, I'm going to take some liberty here to get a little biblical, because what we know from Revelation 2, 10, and 11, that as a part of, the enemy's plan, right? To destroy legacy, to stop the kingdom, to destroy, to kill, steal, and destroy, that time has to come. But there's promises that's attached to that time. And we have to have a certain kind of resolve and a certain kind of courage that we are not here trying to fight to keep our life, but that we're willing to lose it for the sake of the kingdom. And that doesn't mean that we're happy about that kind of suffering or that kind of affliction, but most of us here are very, very familiar with this section of the scripture and how it identifies us in relationship to other people. So I would say here, we just got to get our mind right. We just have to have the resolve that we're not going to be afraid. We just have to get the attitude that we know that at the end, we know how the story ends. And that's victory in Yahushua HaMashiach. I would also say here that remember, there are two witnesses that Yahushua himself, he said, look, you get taken, arrested, detained, brought before a tribunal. Don't worry about what you need to say. Because in that moment, you will be given the words you need to say. The second witness is here, Mark 13:11. Don't worry about what you need to say. The Holy Spirit will give you the words to speak. Because some of our people will face detention, some of our people will face this type of persecution. We have promises that have already been made before us, instructions that have been given generations ahead of now. And I don't know if this particular change in US government is speaking of the event in Revelations 2, but if it is, this is the instruction that Yahushua himself gave. And this is the assurance that we have, is that we were already given what we need to prepare. And that is, don't be afraid. So when I was talking about the work that we did at Atlanta Legal Aid in partnership with immigration experts all across the country and the state of Georgia, what was developed here was the immigrant family preparedness guide for Georgia families. This is a Georgia specific publication, but the information is it's widely applicable. Certain forms, specifically when it comes to powers of attorney for children, those things might be different from state to state, like the formality of it, but the general information applies nationwide. It can be downloaded for free at lawforlove.com/prepare the entire guide. Again, a team of immigration experts put this together under the DACA crisis um, of the first Trump administration. And it does boil down to certain legal documents and sharing of information and giving of authority, because no one knows who will be taken. The second question, immigration advocates and who do I call, or who's a lawyer I can reach out to? I've put a list of all of the attorneys who are already involved in the litigation in both types of issues, birthright citizenship issues or deportation issues. That is also located at lawforlove.com/prepare, where you can download it. And this is where I'm even going to go ahead and say, hey, anybody who wants to help me kind of like tighten up this list and add more information to this list, the more hands on deck we have to have good information and accurate information, the better for our people. It's just me over here trying to make this happen, and I am asking for help. So I welcome and I invite anybody who wants to help put together this, make this contact form more comprehensive, so that our people have like a phone book, like an immigration phone book. And then finally, I want to I want to emphasize here that preparing your estate plan is something that we all need to do anyway. Everybody needs to have an estate plan anyway. But what I'm offering here to the community is that you can electronically prepare it and file it and store it with us. You can share it with your trusted people. You can have it done. You can prepare documents nationwide. All of this, I'm giving you access to it for $50. Set up your emergency power of attorney. Store your legal documents. Get your copy of your birth certificate in there. Get your copy of your passport in there. Get any other important legal documents, deeds, whatever your family might need to have access to that only you know where it is. We can't do that right now. We have to store and share in this season. And so Law for Love is able to host these things for you. This platform has already been vetted by one of our community's own uh, information technology geniuses. Oh no, he don't like that word. Masterminds. Very, very brilliant brother has already experienced and even has used this platform and has given us some excellent feedback. And lawforlove.com/prepare, you can come in here and you can create a plan if you don't have a plan, or upload your plan if you don't have a plan, and share it with your people. Centralize those contact details, put the information in there. Don't leave your loved ones without access, because that's one of the most painful things that happens to families is when they can't find stuff in case of an emergency. You can simplify it all here in one very easy to use, convenient platform. And then after you put it all online, you can print it out and tell your people where the hard copy is with like the summary of all your stuff. It's super duper easy to do. And it just takes a little effort to get your stuff in there and share it. And you know that your folks won't be stuck not being able to act on your behalf in case of emergency. So that's where I will stop this presentation. Again, thank you for coming to class with me today. And I know, and I saw in the text that there were several questions, but if you know Sister Shar, I work better with my ears. So I will ask that whoever has a question that has not been answered by the presentation, if you will raise your hands, then we can take questions in the order in which your hands are raised. And then I would just call upon
Sister Shaw, you have looks like Sister Barbara and then Sister Claudia.
thank you so much. Sister Barbara, will you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Shalom, Sister Shar. My question is, could you give the that website again for Law for Love, where we can do this with our documentation
Yes, ma'am.
and get those copies that we would need?
Yes, ma'am. I'm putting it in the chat, lawforlove.com/prepare. And I will also email it out. So if you have registered and you received my emails already, then I'll send this replay along with the website um, to your email as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Who was next?
Sister Claudia, if
You can
you
go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Sister Shar. Thank you for doing this presentation. The question I have is that my parents are immigrants, but they are now citizen. Do you feel like it's recommended? I was born in the US, but do you feel like it's recommended to get your birth certificate apostille?
So again, having legal documents on hand. So if I might just go ahead and put my own self on blast, ever since January 20th, I've been traveling with my birth certificate and my passport. I just felt in my spirit like I don't want to take any chances out here with law enforcement. And that's no shade to law enforcement. I'm married to law enforcement. My husband is a law enforcement officer, but everybody not right. Right? So
Right.
I personally have been traveling with my birth certificate and my passport. So, any type of certification steps you can take with authenticating your birth records, particularly when you have immigrant parents, I say why not? If you're able to do so without a whole lot of extra obstacles, go for it. We don't know. So much of this area of law is untested. It's all up in the air right now. So documentation is very, very important. I think that's a great idea. And I say go for it. And I would also say that with respect to your parents' nationalization, have a copy of their naturalization documents when they became citizens. Have all of those things in one place. I was just talking to a family member on Friday, and she made the comment about her husband's former military service and not having record of something that he did in the military. And I'm like, look, all of it, any kind of official documentation that kind of tells the story of who you are and how long you've been here and your right to be here, have it, store it, share it. And we're just going to have to figure this out together as things continue to unfold.
Okay, the other question I have is, since they're closing all these embassies and I'm trying to leave here by September, October, how is that going to affect our passports when we are abroad? Like, are they still going to let us renew it, so-called, you know, or are they going to be like, oh, you're out there, you're an immigrant, we're not going to take you. You know what I mean? Like, anything can happen with this administration,
I agree.
Right.
If you renew your passport before you go,
which I did.
then you have the maximum amount of time before being concerned about a passport renewal. I was sharing with my husband, like, like this little consolidation of power got me wondering, like, are you even going to leave the office at the end of your term? Right? You're just like openly violating court orders. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that the Constitution has anything left in it under the current administration. I don't put anything beyond their ability to exclude and to punish. I do believe that a part of this framework of the removal of individual rights from the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't even exist anymore. I've been saying this for years. Um, I believe that first the immigrant, then possibly all other browner or Black people, then dissenters of the government, people who have been openly opposing the government. I think that's the order of this strategy. First, get the non-citizens out because everybody's on board with getting illegals out. They're not gonna stop us. And then once the government has been weakened to deal with immigrants, then anybody else who undesirables, all other undesirables will probably be flagged for deportation.
Okay. Everything that Tail and Kara's been talking about. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Sister Jewel said he's not leaving. Sister Jewel, my husband was like, he'll leave. I was like, to my husband, I said, I don't know. Like what I'm seeing, I'm not trying to be a fear monger. I'm not. Like, I'm praying that I'm wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong. I want to be wrong that this man gonna leave. I do.
Sister Sharp, we have Sister Darlene that has a hand raised, and then I have mine after that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sister Shar. This is very informative. We appreciate it. My question is, will they be, and you probably already answered this, but will they be able to identify or declare any person or group as an occupying enemy?
For everybody in the room, Auntie Darlene is such a woman of wisdom. I mean, I'll talk about you could be my stage partner any day, Auntie.
Thank you.
That was what I meant to come back to. Occupying hostiles. Y'all, they did that to the Chinese. Anybody could be labeled an occupying hostile. For all I know, that's the argument they got in their back pocket on the birthright citizenship when it comes to all y'all. First of all, y'all coordinated to let all of these people up in here under the Biden administration, only for you to start hitting all of the news headlines about all the crimes that they're committing and all the laws that they're breaking and how much disruption that could be classified as a hostile occupation. Can it not? Did y'all do that so that y'all could start like calling people occupying hostiles? I don't know. Auntie, that is under the original Supreme Court case. That is what I believe is the ace in the hole. And that I believe can be declared at any given time under the current state of world affairs and hostilities. And that is pointing back to what I was saying at the first town hall. Look, please don't be out here messy on social media. Please don't be out here openly criticizing anything that this administration got going on. Please don't get yourself flagged. It's going to be really, really easy with AI to show a pattern of your hostilities towards the government. So that is an excellent point. Thank you for reminding me about that point. Auntie, I think that's the big joker that they're getting ready to play.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Brother Karras.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Shaw. I do actually have some observations and a couple questions mixed into this observation. So, to piggyback off of what Sister Darlene had stated, they're building up the framework, and that's the framing of you're now understanding part of what they're doing. It's showing that the levels of escalation to kind of preempt civil hostilities, but still leading towards civil war, i.e., other states, especially now you're starting to see with California, with Gavin Newsom going and trying to rally these other states to, basically have a governor's rebellion of sorts. But you also have here technocratic policing through companies like Palantir. And when they say these, multi-billion-dollar defense contracts, you're thinking, and most Americans are thinking, that that's for foreign enemies, i.e., what happens is that according to the Constitution, when you take office, especially under any type of a federal or executive office in any type of military or policing, is that you are now required to protect and safeguard against all enemies, foreign or domestic. So now understand the apparatus that they're utilizing, because now the whole charge is that they're wanting to criminalize what wokeisms. And they left that so broad that now when they bring that down to, well, you're woke, And wokeism is what? Hostility towards what? The federal system. But what does that really mean? Well, they can then term it as much as they want. And literally, what they're doing is they're turning this around, just in my opinion, that if you criticize anything that's basically of a white supremacist nature, okay, you're literally then criticizing the government, which is formed on the basis of white supremacist ideologies. So the reality is that as you start to see these laws take effect, they're not going to be, as Sister Shar had stated, if you're listening intently and you're seeing what's happening, they're not going to just be explicit. You're going to have to draw inferences, right? It's going to be inferred. It's going to be something like, hey, you know, legally you could just run across the street, but if you're walking, you may want to look both ways before you cross the street. Because if you cross the street and you haven't been looking and a car comes through and slams you, it's a safe measure. It's a safe guideline. Now, as we then approach this, things are not going to be stated. And matter of fact, as you understand, as Sister Shaw was saying, the runaway police state, well, it's a security insulation measure, right? Of dictatorial standards. Their standards and guidance and other laws and regulations, they don't get codified, right? But they just get, hey, do it this way. What about if I get in trouble? Don't worry if you get in trouble. I'll take care of it. I'll handle it.
They're literally legislating through emails. At this point, you're going to see emails creating the new laws.
Exactly. And I'm going to say this, Sister Shar, for those that are fighting this fight per se, and that's informing the masses, will there be any type of, I would say, do you think possibly bulletins or other notifications that we would then either have to go through USCIS, the Citizens and Immigration Services, ICE, Border Patrol, Homeland Security, or do you think those agencies would just have to continue to literally request on a daily basis FOIA requests to have information disclosed?
They're not responding to FOIA requests. They're not doing it. Like when you read the court documents, especially in the deportation cases, the DVD case, that's one of the main complaints. We're sending FOIA requests. The government's not responding. We're asking for their written policies. The government's not responding. The government has been conducting itself in a pattern of not responding to the public. And then in the same case, turned around and defied a court order that asked for the identity of the people that got sent to Libya.
So to give everybody the edification, the understanding, FOIA means Freedom of Information Act, and by law, supposed to be by law, when a FOIA request is made, especially to agencies within the federal government, because I can only give you that information as I had been an actual release officer. You have e-discoveries there that create the keywords that's supposed to be provided, given the fact that it's not an active investigation, that there are no grave or other sensitive information that would produce harm to the United States, and other discretionary measures that would or could cause harm to parties in there. So, redacting of names and things of that nature. So, you can materially withhold names unless those people are actually sued in specifics to, in the cases that I would see, humanitarian laws in terms of ICC, ICJ prosecutions, and that has happened.
Well, hold on. Let me be very, very clear here. The court
Mm-hmm.
did not issue a FOIA request. The
Mm-hmm.
court issued an order for discovery. The government
Mm-hmm.
was ordered to disclose details concerning individuals who were being shipped without notice to
Mm-hmm.
countries, third countries. The,
Yeah.
the court did not have the identity of detainees who were being flown overseas.
Wow.
This ain't for you.
No.
Now, the plaintiff's attorneys were complaining that their FOIAs were being ignored. That's one
Mm-hmm.
thing. But the court was disrespected, and court order was not followed, and the administration was in contempt. And this is why Justice Sotomayor went off in her dissent in the DVD case. She's like, okay, Supreme Court, so we just gonna sit up here and let the administration disrespect a court? We're not gonna hold them in contempt? We're just gonna let them get away with doing what they want to do. This is what Sotomayor is saying in her dissent. She's like, what the heck is this? The government is boldly disregarding court orders. And this is why I've reached the conclusion that all three branches at the highest levels are on code. All of them. Fight all you want to. You're going to get bankrupted. That is siege warfare. You think you're going to win in litigation? Go right ahead. You're going to win in litigation against an entity that prints its own money. Not even the states can fight that fight.
All right. Thank you, Sister Shaw. We have Nature's Legacy.
Shalom, that's fast nickel.
Shalom, Brother
So,
Nichols.
shalom. So, two things I want to bring up. The first one is to piggyback on what Sister Shar and Brother Karras said. About 6 weeks ago, through Congress, they tried to establish a law that whether it be if you directly say something in social media or you even comment to a comment in social media that is against the state of Israel, you will either get a 1 million, I think it's a $1 million fine or a couple of years in jail. I don't remember, but the Congress vetoed it. But that just tells me that they will bring that up and put that in a different bill and hide it. uh, that's what's going to happen. So anything you do in social media, you better be very careful because they're talking about $1 million fine and or imprisonment. And that's just for social media comment. They don't care if you say something bad against the US government, but if you say something bad against Israel, you will go to jail or pay a heavy fine. The second thing I wanted to say is Brother Karras and I had this conversation um, a week ago Friday. So the big deal for the past 10 years or more has been, hey, guns, guns, guns. But because of the Second Amendment, they could not do anything about guns. But, you know, nothing ever gets taken serious until the United States jumps in. So the fact that this week has been the the big crypto bill, and now all these crypto laws are going into effect because the United States is taking the lead, everybody else will follow. So what I was explaining to Brother Karras is what's happening is we are seeing before our eyes this one world government that it's no longer through blockchain, they are overriding the laws and constitutional laws of countries, that everything is going to fall under the jurisdiction of the UN. So it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to say, well, I'm a US citizen. And this is in my rights. You no longer have rights.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Brother Fast Nickel, because one of the things that kind of jumped out to me as a thought as I was reading the DVD case about people who were already deported, but they're remaining for humanitarian reasons. That humanitarian buzzword, right? It implicates the United Nations. One of the other things too that I'm wondering is more of a question than I don't have answers, is all of the global movement of immigrants and resettling of people, is it about documenting you so that you can become a part of the new government? Because the new government needs everyone to be documented. The new government can't work and control the masses if we have anyone that's undocumented. So is the push really about globally documenting everyone?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. That's the whole reason for the push for the ID, because as as I showed in my presentation that I gave on Brother Yacoba on Friday, every the good and bad is this. When you go to the doctor, or when you buy a house or buy a car, you know, there's paperwork involved, because the problem is no one trusts anybody anymore. So you can who's to say if your documentations are legit regarding anything? So through blockchain, everything will be verified. So when you want to buy a house with blockchain and AI, now you'll get your bank approvals for the money, you'll get your title insurance, everything will take place within 5-10 minutes, because everything will be in your wallet through your ID. This is why they were pushing for the ID system, because that is going to be how everything goes. So, like I said in the presentation that I gave on his show, I showed a breakdown, whether it be legally, um, for all the different areas, whether it be medical. You're just going to go to your doctor's office. You just provide your wallet, your ID, and all his information that you need for that he needs for you will just be all revealed. Like, it's it sounds great on the surface, but when you're spiritual and you know what's coming, you know that, man, you need to be out of here, like yesterday.
We all have to practice living wise as serpents and harmless as doves. This is why, in my opinion, our collective social media behavior is a problem. Our lack of social media discernment is one of the biggest threats to us as a group of people. And we need to be wise in this hour. The first people that's going to get picked up, scooped up, detained, and shipped off somewhere are going to be the loudest blabbermouths who are spewing hatred on the internet. And that's going to be from everybody. I don't care what community you're from. People who are openly spewing hatred on social media are going to be the first taken down, unless they work for ICE. So we need to be very, very discerning. We are being policed. We have already been policed for more than a decade through digital monitoring. And we need to act like we know that.
And to your comment about IDing everybody, yes, that is first and foremost, because through the ID, if you don't comply, they turn you off. And now you can see where it talks about you can't buy or sell because everything is now through AI blockchain and everybody has an ID, everybody's accounted for.
Everybody's accounted for. Yeah.
And Sister Shar, this is Tina. My hands up is not working, everyone. Good afternoon. I just want to comment and say, it has been recently stated that, more than 1,300 people have left the State Department. And in giving that, I mean, you've told us the necessity of having a passport, but I would submit that, I have heard that they're only processing emergency passports at this point because now the staff, right? The staffing is so low that, they can't really push out, now it may or may not be a thing. I mean, this is what I kind of heard in the wind, and I wish I could recall the source that I got it from, but, so I would just kind of lean in on and kind of support what you said relative to get your passport as soon as possible, because the reality is, are we going to be able to put hands on certain documents or relative to our passport in a minute? It's a good question.
Thank you for that, Sister Tina.
Claudia
My
has a comment.
cousin was reaching out to me from Miami, wondering if she should change her name because Dade County passed a new voting law that says that if your your voter registration doesn't match your birth certificate name, then you won't be able to vote. She was like, but I'm married, and I've been carrying my husband's name for the past 30 years. Like, she was looking into changing her name just so she can make the connection between, her birth certificate and her voter registration. And, this is the kind of stuff that got us out here really wondering, what should we do and how should we do it? All of this is a new frontier, is untested. Like I mentioned, with the usage of court ordered protection orders of the whole country, this ain't start happening until after the Patriot Act. And the federal court just got stomped on by the Supreme Court and told to sit down somewhere. Sit down somewhere. And they are tying up the question of legality under all kind of procedural nonsense. So all of this is untested. No one has all of the answers. I have more questions than answers. But what I'm seeing is saying, hey, we need each other. We need to be sharing information. We need to be empowering our people. We need to be thinking about how to make sure that a worst case scenario doesn't create a homeless situation for children or for people that's depending on us. These are just things we need to be thinking about. And with the Holy Spirit's guidance, with the empowerment of wisdom, what you need to do, you will know what to do. And when we're all hearing according to the spirit of wisdom, we are by default unified. We are by default walking in unity because we all hearing from the same spirit. That same spirit is not going to testify against itself. But if we make that our commitment to ask the Father for wisdom, that he may instruct us and guide us, then we will be each doing our part and keeping one another in mind, loving one another through that process. Because this nation is divided against itself. And one of the most, I say this all the time, don't die ugly. What I'm seeing is an ugly death of the patriotic American. They are sitting here and they are cheering the removal of illegal aliens at the expense of their Constitution, and they don't see it. Their house is divided against itself. Your country gone. You ain't got no Constitution. Man, I was sharing this with a lady yesterday after I finished my workout. Patriotic American, good old American pie lady. I said, the constitutional government is gone. And her only response was, Jesus is coming soon. This is an ugly die for your country. And our hope and our expectation is that the Most High will be merciful upon his people, that our judgment is mercy. Some of us will die. Some of us will be persecuted. A remnant will be saved. We pray to be counted amongst those of the Church of Philadelphia who don't catch those L's. But even if I be amongst the ones that be persecuted or killed, may it all be unto the glory of the Most High. He said it was going to happen. And they don't realize that wall that you are building, that you are cheering, are the walls to your own prison. You don't have individual rights. That third country deportation case under DVD is extremely important because the plaintiffs' counsel are saying, notice, notice, notice. You have a constitutional right to notice. You have a constitutional right to be heard. They are screaming, this is basic Fourth Amendment rights. What the heck? People are being deported and they didn't even get paperwork telling them that they're getting shipped off somewhere that they weren't born. This isn't America. This is what plaintiffs' attorneys are saying. What country is this? When you read these complaints, it sounds like, I don't know how many of y'all saw Amistad, but in Amistad, the brother was like, what type of country is this? What type of law, what type of justice is this? This is what plaintiffs' counsel, legally trained men and women are saying. We don't even know what country this is anymore. And the people that's cheering this mess on don't realize that their country gone. Did we have any other hands? I'm sorry for my little rant, y'all. This stuff is making me mad.
My hand is up. This is Claudia. So I just wanted to I agree with brother Fast Nichols. I work in the medical field and now we have to tell the like I work in dialysis and we have to tell people like we have to ask them like the patients, are you documented, like legally documented, or are you not legally documented? And then we have to report that to HR if they're not legally documented. And that's what we started to do last week. So I don't know what's going to happen with those patients because we have a lot of, I'm in Arizona, we have a lot of Mexicans. And the other thing is my cousin, we live about like 45 minutes away. She received a letter in the mail asking her, is she a legalized citizen in the United States from the Maricopa County saying that for her house purposes. Meaning like if you own a house and you're not a legal citizen, they're gonna take the house away, which she is. So the paper came, I haven't seen it from my own eyes. I haven't got one yet because the house is on my name, but I am in the county. But she got that Friday and I was just like, she's like, Claudia, did you get one? And I was like, no. So it's a paper that come in the mail. It says like, the address of the house, the partial number, and then they're asking, are you a U.S. a legal citizen of the US, and you have to check the box, and then you have to send proof of documentation. And this is in Arizona.
If you could please get your hands on a copy of that, I'm fascinated to see more.
Okay.
Thank you. And anybody who owns a house, any and everybody who owns a house, please transfer your home to a trust. And if you need help doing that, I'm telling you, go to that Law for Love website, create an account, you have access to purchase a trust right there. If you need to have a conversation with me about a payment plan, email me. Do not let money be the reason why we're not protecting what we've already worked so hard for, not for the sake of keeping it for value, but for the sake of not being put on the streets. Because what's going to happen in these states' governments, what I'm expecting from all this litigation, again, the federal litigants can print money. The state litigants can't. So where do the state litigants get the money from? Anybody?
Taxes.
Property taxes. Property taxes. You are going to see property taxes skyrocket while states try to keep up with fighting Trump. Your home being in a trust is about transference of your property, being able to manage your property if you come up missing, being able to talk to the mortgage company on your behalf. I'll never forget, I had a young lady call for advice. She might have been 22, 23. Her mom passed away and had a condo. The young lady, she's a baby. She calls the mortgage company about the condo, trying to find out what to send the mortgage payment. My mom died. And that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. You don't tell the bank somebody died. The minute the baby told the bank that her mama died, they locked her out of her account, refused to tell her anything, and the condo ended up in foreclosure. And the baby was trying to hurry up and find out how to get to probate court to save her mama condo. Like, dog, my mama just died. You got to deal with somebody you lose somebody and then you lose what they work for. Can we stop that? Can we stop that? And if you entertained by me getting mad, I'm very, very pissed by GoFundMe culture. I hate GoFundMe culture. Somebody done died and y'all got to raise the money. We all know we're going to die. Can we at least have us a burial policy and protect our dignity as a people? Can we stop this mess? The courts are full of your cousins wasting time and money, getting no justice. Y'all, I would be sitting up here praising the court if the court was doing a good job giving our people justice. We're not getting justice. We're getting robbed. They got us looking stupid, y'all. Please, if you own a house, set up a trust. Maybe at some point in time, depending on how long all this stuff gonna take, we might be able to, as a community, create some kind of fund to cover or help with the property taxes thing is about to happen because that's the next way they're trying to rob folks. Maybe we might be able to organize something when that time comes. I don't know. But at a minimum, we know that a trust will keep you from losing your house unnecessarily if you get detained or if you pass away unexpectedly under an emergency. It's hard enough for your people to miss you when you're gone. Then they have to be fighting the court to get your stuff that you wanted them to have anyway. If we're going to say that the curses are reversing, then we need to start practicing what that looks like. Planning, preparing, and empowering our families. So yes, we can do that nationwide, and I'm imploring you to take advantage of that platform. Do we have any other hands, any other information? Thank you all who are
Yes,
bringing
ma'am.
forth information. Sister Barbara.
My question is, you said we need to carry our passport. Would it be recommendable for us to take a picture or make a copy of the 2 pages, the one that says "We the People" and then the one right under it that says, or right behind it that says, has your picture and USA and has all your information on it. Would that be acceptable?
I don't know what's acceptable, Auntie. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I travel with my physical passport.
Ah,
I I'm just telling you what I do. I
okay,
travel with my physical passport. I've been doing it
okay.
since January 20th. I didn't even talk to my son, and my son, he was already out here telling all his friends, like, man, don't play no games and not have your papers on you out here. My son started telling his friends that in January. I did not know. I
Wow. Well,
carry
I guess
my
I'll
physical
keep it in
passport.
mind.
I have digital
Okay,
copies of my physical passport in my estate planning account. I have copies of my trust in my estate planning account. I have all of the information for my businesses and continuation of my businesses in my estate planning account.
okay,
I'm training the next generation how to keep stuff going. I'm teaching them how to handle money. I'm having conversations with them about stewardship and getting on their behinds about financial literacy. That's what I'm doing,
makes sense.
right?
Makes sense.
So
Makes sense.
we not working as hard as we work to sit up here and have our stuff taken from us, or then when we transfer it to the next generation, they don't know what to do with it, and it gets taken from them.
Right.
So this conversation is just all a part of something we should have been doing anyway, for real. Taking care of each other by planning. And I know it's hard to do when they got us in survival mode out here. We gotta work to get coins to play in the tokens and the video games, and but they are moving fast, and we just need to make the time. Make the time for these things.
I have another
Okay. Thank
comment.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you mentioned the trust because the last few weeks in my crypto class, I've been telling people that you want to do things through a trust. People with money tend to have trust because the terminology is own nothing but control everything. And so by having a trust, now it helps you to walk around with anonymity. So that's because also a lot of people grew up thinking, hey, I got a will, but a will can be broke. A will can be broken. It can be um, they can defeat a will, but a trust is ironclad. That's one thing. Second thing, to what you were saying about the mortgage, this is why the problem with mortgages, the problem with debt is whoever you set up your mortgage or your debt initially, for all you know, it's already changed hands 4 times. So the fact that the person mentioned that there was somebody passed away, that just gave them the ability to, like you said, to close everything out. But if nothing was said, that you have a much a leg to stand on as they do because the person, the entity that you might see on your mortgage may have sold that mortgage years ago, and now you're paying into a mortgage. What But no one really knows who's receiving those funds, and that's the same with your taxes because the thing about this country, you can pay off your house, but if you don't pay your tax, they're going to take that house. So to your point, they make taxes so impossible. I mean, people who are from New York, Long Island, they know their taxes are astronomical. People out in California, the taxes are astronomical. It gets to a point Because again, we're getting to that point with 2030 where you'll own nothing and be happy because nothing will be affordable. If you're not making a way today within the next 2 years, it might by 2026, 27, it may be too late.
Thank you for that, Brother Fast Nickel. I would say, with respect to anonymity through a trust, if you put your house inside of the trust, it is advisable to have the trust in your name for the purpose of your homestead tax exemption in most jurisdictions. But you can own as many trusts as you want to. So if you want to have a trust that does not have your name, that owns other things that cannot be found, then having more than one trust is a possibility. So everybody's situation is different. But anonymity would require a trust that does not have your name and that you don't put your house in. But if you put your house in a trust for the sake of your homestead exemption, your trust needs to have your name in order to maintain your homestead exemption in most jurisdictions. So if you're thinking about owning things anonymously, and you have a house and you want an anonymous trust, you might need two. So that's something that you need to explore with a little more tax advice and estate planning guidance. But taxes will go up as the cost of fighting for state rights continues to escalate through this very aggressive battlefront of um, federal federal fight picking. The federal government has picked a fight with the states, and the states, they have already been calculated. They're going to run out of money to be able to handle it. And this very well could be the mechanism by which they have predicted that you will own nothing and be happy if no one can afford taxes. So that is a very real possibility, and I appreciate you bringing that to light, Brother Fastener.
And to your point, like for me, because I want to do things too fast. So right now I'm a DBA, but I plan on setting up my LLC and then putting that in the trust. So when you mention trust, just so that everybody is aware, there's one way through as a business and just maneuver through a business and partially why I want to do that is because of going to the continent. But if you don't have a business, you're just setting up a private trust. I forgot the name escapes me at the moment, but to your knowledge, there's multiple trusts out there. So coming to someone like you to be informed on what's the best way to do it, because there's multiple trusts and there's different ways to do it.
Yes, definitely, definitely multiple trusts. The more complex your business setup is, if you have multiple businesses, that's the type of thing that I typically collaborate with your CPA on figuring out the best tax strategy, because trusts are a part of tax strategies. But the trusts that will definitely serve 90% of situations would be the trust that's available inside of the Law for Love preparedness portal. So that is something that you have immediate access to. And again, if cost is a problem, call me and we can figure this out. We got to work together. I was telling my sister earlier today, I said, look, I'm in my lane. My lane is research and it's training. I know that y'all don't want me bringing the macaroni and cheese to the cookout. Like, that's not my lane. It's not. So, um, I'm bringing what I have to the table. We're all bringing what we have to the table. Our people are a beautifully blessed and abundant people. And when we all just come, just like the Church of Acts, how do you think they survived that mess under Rome? Everybody brought what they had so that there would be no need amongst us. We got to move like that. So this is just my piece that I'm bringing to the cookout. I get to bring the plates and the potato chips.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Sister Shaw, this is Darlene again.
Uh-huh.
I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Brother Fast Nickel was saying. Regarding mortgages, when you go to closing and they hand you a book to sign and you're sitting there for hours, inside that agreement, it says that the mortgage company can call your debt to be paid in full at any time. At any time. So whenever they get ready, they can call your debt. So that's just some, to think about too.
That's true. That's
Mhm.
very, very true. That's very, very true. Thank you for that point, Sister Darlene.
That's the dangerous part of variable loans, especially when there's a balloon payment in it.
Yeah. Look, y'all, we are destroyed for not knowing, but when we come together like this, we share information and we're not in darkness anymore. It was Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17, reveals that one of the judgments of Egypt was darkness, of ignorance that created fear. And that is exactly what I believe. All of this birthright and immigration litigation is literally darkness and ignorance for people who are cheering on racism under the veil of immigration. They are being judged with darkness. They don't see that their government gone. But we're coming out of darkness by loving each other and sharing information like this. So thank you all. Do we have any other questions or comments or insights?
Are
Yes.
I
Two
put the,
hands.
I put the link in the chat about Maricopa County where it talks about the updated for Maricopa County voters needed to provide documentation proof of citizenship. So I put that in there. I did message her and she's like, I don't know her. I'm not giving out my information. So I was like, okay, whatever.
She can black out her name and her address. I
I
don't
know
blame
that's what
her.
I told her. So
But
I'll
thank you
talk.
for this.
Yeah. And I sent some information in your email in the support.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we just got to
I
keep.
have one last
Um,
question.
wow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because my hand's been up for a minute.
Okay, go
I
right
just have
ahead.
a quick question in reference. I came a little late, Sister Shire, Sister Cynthia. Um, and I kind of got the last end of you talking about the trust. So my question is, um, uh, I'm thinking that you're very privy to trust and things of that nature. If you owe taxes, I was told that you until you get all of those taxes cleared up, you should not get a trust. Do you are you familiar with that? Is there a way around that?
Right. So there's a lot of bad information out here on the internet about tax protection from a trust is not a vehicle for tax protection. A trust is a vehicle for avoiding probate court. Avoiding probate court. So if you have a tax issue, your trust can be invaded for dealing with the tax issue. Taxes, hold on just a second. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Taxes are what what is known under the law as a superior lien. So the government, there are only few people who can foreclose and take your house for debt. The tax man is one of them. The tax man can foreclose, the mortgage company can foreclose. Very rarely do you see any other creditor with the right to take your house for a debt. So when it comes to whether or not you have a tax debt and you shouldn't put your house in a trust because of your tax debt, there would need to be a little bit more of a specific analysis of what your situation is and what your options are for potentially entering into a payment plan. I would not leave your house in a status that can be tied up in probate court if you have a path forward for resolving the tax debt. The trust doesn't protect you from the tax, but there's no reason not to protect your house from being tied up in probate in the event of an emergency. So I hope that gives you somewhat of a guidance on how to approach the trust if there's a tax issue.
It does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, here's my last question. And this
No,
is
it's
dealing with,
not. No, it's not.
yeah, well, if I have any more, I'll call you. My question is dealing with the trust. I have not gotten my LLC yet, but I do have my EIN. Um, how would that work with my house and my business? Would I have to do them separately,
No.
or would I? No, I can put them all in one trust.
Yes.
Okay,
It could be that
that's what I
simple.
want.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes. I am the queen of keep it simple when you can. And
Thank
so,
you.
yes, there's no
Thank you.
reason why your LLC cannot be put in your trust along with your house. If you're dealing with multiple businesses, more of an enterprise type structure, that's when we get the CPA involved, and that's when we come up with something a little more complex for your tax planning
Okay.
and your trust strategy. But for, again, 90% of us, one trust will get it done. So for what you're describing, Auntie, one trust is fine.
Okay. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
One hand left, Sister Jamara.
Okay.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you, Sister Shar, for everything that you have shared with us. I have put in the chat, as it pertains to carrying around your documents, that things should be notarized. I'm not a legal professional, but I just feel in my spirit that if I'm carrying around a copy of my passport or my birth certificate, it should also be notarized. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So what a notary does is authenticate the validity of certain things, right? Most of the time, what a notary is doing is authenticating the identity of the person who's presenting themselves before the notary and signing something. 99% of notary acts are authenticating the person signing. So, with respect to copies, one strategy from a notary standpoint or a notary certification standpoint would be to take the document, and then on the back of the document, have your notary have the notary put a notarial statement about the person presenting this document, which matches the state ID, whatever state ID, and that this person has verified to me this is who they are on their state ID and has affirmed or sworn before me that this is their actual government issued ID. So I think that that approach with a very comprehensive notarial statement on the back of the document, like I'm thinking like a full sheet of paper kind of document, like most birth certificates, you wouldn't want the notarial statement on top of the document itself because it might cover up something. But if it's on the back of that statement and then notarized, that would be a type of notarial act that might add authentication to a copy of your document.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So no more hands, Sister Shar, at the moment.
Awesome. I want to thank you all and bless you for your due diligence in searching out this information. At any given time, you might find information or you may hear legal updates that cause anything you've heard today to be called into question. I want you all to know that Sister Shar is not beyond being called out, corrected, challenged, questioned. Again, today was about
I'm
giving you the
sorry. Can you hear me, Sister Shar?
yes, Miss Sister Lisa Marie.
Yes, I'm sorry. My hand didn't go up, so I couldn't click the button to
It's
ask a question.
okay. What you got?
Okay. I really appreciate the work you're doing and getting the information out to us. Okay. My question and concern is that I have a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. Those are my last children. And I was reading some of the comments, and I'm not sure if I'm speaking for anyone else. I'm one of the people that is like low income, living on a budget. And now I had a lot of losses with with my jobs, and I was not able to build like that because of the circumstances of the racism. Now my hometown was Lancaster, PA. Not to give out all my information, but I was one of the people that make Fed America. I made Kellogg cereal, Fruit Loops, and all that other stuff. But my concern is for people like me, um, and with my children going to school, uh, not really being financially ready for things, and me being at 57 years old, I have great concern because I had like a lot of things that were given to me that was legally taken away, a lot of wealth. So I don't have that financial stability. So with me having these younger kids in school, I'm getting very concerned because my kids are in in a Catholic school, but it is a like new Catholic, but they did something to offer something for Philadelphia area for children that are unfortunate. This is like a charter school, so they pick these areas of zip codes that have these kids come to the school, but it's dominated white area. These people do not like our kids out there, but it's more black people kids in that school. With them going to the school was a Title I school. Them going back to school this year, my concern is would they need, because they're teenagers, some kind of ID form, a passport, um, if someone's going to come there and question them, because I'm really concerned because I'm hearing so many things here in Philadelphia. We had so many close calls. We got I received so many different strange messages about alerts on my phone here. Philadelphia city going around snatching people cars up, and it's just a lot of things happen here in Philadelphia that's not being said, like for people to know. Just people that live in the residents of Philadelphia, these things are happening to us in our areas. So, what as a parent should I do for my children? Is it time to pour our kids out of the schools, or if they're going to go to the schools and ask questions without me being present or their dad being present? That's a big concern. Now, I deeply, I want to leave. I do want to leave and get out of here, but I don't want to leave because of fear. But also, I know I trust in the Father, and I've been having a lot of dreams. But right now, the Father is showing me things that He's going to come and get His children. But also, I understand the Word as well, and I keep asking questions. Like I said, I was reading the comments. I know the Father's in charge, and it's not for me to fear because He didn't give us a spirit of fear. But with my kids concerned, that part going into this school year, being in my age that I am and having these young kids, what things can I have in place for them if I'm not present to be there at them schools? They're coming to the schools. I did get word they may be coming to the schools to ask questions and all that other stuff. What can we cover ourselves like for our children?
Oh,
And
Sister
them
Lisa.
being black children at that. And I hate saying that word because I know truly who we are. My kids know who they are. But it's a lot of beautiful. Like you said, we have beautiful. Our people are beautiful, and they're young. I don't want to hold you up, but it's just a big concern of mine.
Um, it sounds very daunting. I'm probably not the most unbiased person when it comes to educating our children. I'm going into my fourth year of homeschool, and
Okay.
um, I One of well, our family is one of many families in our community that began to join the homeschool movement in the wake of COVID, and seeing that our children would be left behind with the fallout that was happening in the schools. I strongly believe that if there is any way that you can homeschool and partner with other families in homeschool community, especially with teenagers, because with teenagers, they really, really need that social connection in that season of life, then that would be ideal. With respect to them having documentation when they're not with you, um, technically they're in the care of the state when they're at school. It would be the travel between home and school that you would most have to be concerned about when it comes to your children's autonomy or liberty to move around. But the parent becomes the school when we drop our children off at school. So
Yes.
if they don't already have state issued ID, that is a great age for them to just have a government issued ID at a minimum. And that's not an age group that I would necessarily trust with carrying their birth certificate or passport, because
Yeah.
it's just we have a lot going on.
Well,
Um,
I did homeschool them for a long time, and they wanted to go back because they're teenagers.
right.
I just had an eighth grader just graduated, and my other one, she graduated last year, so they're both in high school now. But that is a big concern. I mean, I don't have no issues of going back into the homeschool, but it's right now, dad is busy working. Me out here, I'm the only one that bringing in income. It's just it's tight.
Mhm.
Um, but I do understand that concern of getting them into homeschool, and it's good advice to go back into. They were so happy to have that, but with them being teenagers, I just have to pray on it harder to
Yeah.
get some more answers from there. But I'm just concerned because it's just a lot of strange talking going on here in Philadelphia. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Pray for wisdom. The Holy Spirit will lead you
Yes,
and
indeed.
guide you into all truth. And we are not out here helpless. We have a helper. And so
Yeah.
long as we're remaining connected and
Hmm.
we're listening and we're obeying, then that's what keeps us safe. That's what gives us that Psalm 91 coverage. So
Exactly.
I'm thankful that your declaration is that you're not going to be motivated by fear. And we have confidence in knowing that the Most High cannot lie. His promises concerning us are yes and amen. And those of us who are committed to going through the trials and the tests, again, we overcome the dragon by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. We will be tried, we will be tested, we will be afflicted for his name's sake. But at the end of the day, he who endures to the end shall be saved. And we all have to face some hardships, we all have to make some choices. But at the end of the day, it's all for his glory, which makes it worth it. It's hard, but it makes it
Yes.
worth it.
Yep. Yes. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right, y'all. I love having school. I pray that this blessed you, edified you. I ask you to share this with anyone who you feel can benefit from the information, anyone who's wondering what's going on. It's so many different, sound bites. I didn't want to hit you with conclusions without giving you a reason why for those conclusions. And I pray that we accomplish that with today's training. So, um, if there's any more stuff that's heating up in the news, don't be surprised if I invite you to another one of these types of sessions. And let's just stay informed and keep each other informed and encouraged while we go through. All right. Y'all be blessed and encouraged. And we'll go ahead and close this out. Shalom.
Thank you, Sister Shaw. Bless you.
You're welcome. Bless you.
Thank you, Sister Shaw.
Thank
Shalom.
you.
You have a blessed,
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Sister.
much.
blessed
Thank you
day.
so much.
Thank you.
Sister
Thank you
Shaw.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shalom.
God bless.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
praises.
you.
The Most High
Shalom
God.
to everybody.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Shalom,
Hallelujah.
everyone. Love you all.
Thank you, sis.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Peace and love and joy, everyone. Love you.
Shalom. Thank
Shalom,
you.
family. Shalom, family.
Shalom, shalom.